In the heart of the savannah, where ancient baobab trees touch the sky, lies a mystery as old as the earth itself, the mystery of the silent river. For generations, this river, once a thundering lifeblood for all creatures, has flowed without a sound. The hippos no longer bellowed in its depths. The crocodiles slid silently into its waters, and even the birdsong seemed to hush as they drank from its banks. The animals had long accepted this strange quiet, but not Ilara. Ilara was a young elephant, brimming with a curiosity as vast as the savannah she called home. While the other elephants in her herd warned her to stay away from the silent river, their cautionary tales only fueled her desire to understand. The river holds a sorrow too deep for sound, her grandmother would say, her wise old eyes clouded with a distant memory. Some things are best left undisturbed, but Ilara couldn't let it go. How could something so powerful, so full of life, be so utterly silent? One sun-drenched afternoon, as her herd rested in the shade, Ilara made a decision. She would solve the mystery of the silent river, no matter what. Her journey began at dawn. She followed the river's path, her large feet making soft thuds on the damp earth. The silence was unnerving. It wasn't just the absence of the river's rush. It was a heavy, watchful quiet that seemed to press in from all sides. She passed a dazzle of zebras, their stripes stark against the muted landscape. They drank nervously, their ears twitching, before quickly retreating back to the plains. Further on, she met Kale, an old, wise tortoise who was sunning himself on a rock. Kale had seen more seasons than any other creature in the savannah. "Ah, the little elephant with the big questions," he rasped, his voice like dry leaves skittering across the ground. "You seek the river's voice." Ilara nodded eagerly. "Do you know what happened to it, Kale? Why is it so quiet?" Kale blinked slowly. The river's voice was not taken. It was given. Long ago, a great fire swept through the savannah. It was a terrifying blaze, devouring everything in its path. The animals fled in panic, but many were trapped. The river, seeing their plight, rose up in a mighty wave, a roar of water and sound that quenched the flames and saved the land. But in doing so, it spent its voice, leaving only a whisper behind. Ilara was stunned. The river had sacrificed its song to save them all. But can't it get its voice back? She asked, her own voice small. Kale looked towards the distant mountains. It is said that the river's voice was scattered into 3 echoes, hidden in the highest, deepest, and trickiest places in the savannah. To restore the river's song, one must find these echoes and bring them back. Hope surged through Ilara. This was her quest. Thanking Kale, she set off towards the first location he described, the Whispering Peaks, the highest mountains in the land. The climb was arduous. The paths were narrow, the winds were fierce, and the air grew thin. But Ilara was determined. She remembered the stories of the great fire and the river's sacrifice. She had to succeed. After days of climbing, she reached a vast, windswept plateau. In its center stood a cluster of uniquely shaped rocks that hummed when the wind blew through them. And there, carried on the breeze, was a faint, melodious sound, the first echo. It was the sound of a gentle, babbling brook. Carefully, Ilara used her trunk to scoop up a large, hollow gourd she had brought. She held it up, and as the wind whistled through the rocks, the gourd captured the gentle sound, sealing it inside. Her next destination was the sunken cave, the deepest place in the savannah. This was a place of shadows and damp, dripping stone. Many animals feared the dark, but Ilara held the memory of the river's courage in her heart. She descended into the earth, her eyes slowly adjusting to the gloom. Deep within the cave, she found an underground lake. In the center of the lake, glowing faintly, were crystals that resonated with a deep, rumbling hum, the second echo, the sound of a powerful, deep current. It was a sound of strength and depth. Wading into the cool water, she held out another gourd, and the deep, resonant hum flowed into it, captured. The final echo was the trickiest. It was hidden in the labyrinth of thorns, a dense, confusing maze of acacia trees and thorny bushes guarded by mischievous monkeys who loved to play tricks on travelers. The monkeys chattered and laughed, trying to lead her astray, changing paths and mimicking sounds to confuse her. But Elara was clever. She noticed that the thorns always grew slightly away from the direction of the true sound. Following this subtle clue, she navigated the maze. At its very heart, she found a single ancient baobab tree. Perched on its branches were a family of songbirds, and their beautiful, cascading song was the final echo, the sound of waterfalls and joyful splashes. As the birds sang their chorus, Elara captured their melody in her last gourd. With the 3 echoes secured, Elara raced back to the silent river. Her herd, who had been worried sick, saw her approaching and gathered at the water's edge. They watched in amazement as Elara stood before the silent water. "River," she called out, her voice clear and strong. "We have not forgotten your sacrifice. We have come to return your voice." One by one, she opened the gourds. First, the gentle babble of the brook flowed out, and the river began to stir, its surface rippling with a soft murmur. Next, she released the deep, resonant hum of the powerful current. The river swelled, its flow growing stronger, deeper. Finally, she released the joyful, cascading song of the waterfalls. A magnificent sound erupted from the river. It was a symphony of gurgles, rumbles, and splashes, a powerful living song that filled the entire savanna. The water danced and churned, alive with energy. The birds began to sing along, the hippos let out joyous bellows, and the crocodiles slapped their tails in the revitalized current. The other elephants trumpeted in celebration. Elara's grandmother approached her, her eyes shining with pride and wonder. "You did it, little one," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "You listened when everyone else was content with silence. You brought the song back to the river." From that day on, the river was no longer silent. It flowed with a joyful noise that told the story of its sacrifice and the courage of the little elephant who refused to let its voice be forgotten. Elara became a hero, not just for her herd, but for all the creatures of the savanna. She had learned that curiosity, when paired with courage and respect for the past, could bring about the most wonderful changes. And as she stood by the singing river, listening to its beautiful music, Elara knew that no mystery was too great to solve, and no voice was ever truly lost if someone was brave enough to listen for it. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed Elara's adventure, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories from the savannah. See you next time.